everyone. Welcome to the History of New Media Art. I'm your instructor, Jackie Gleisner, and today we will be talking about a unique branch of new media art. We're going to be looking at examples of interactive art, paying special attention to projects that utilize the internet as the mechanism for interaction. The last time we were together, we were discussing computer art, and in the previous lecture, we zeroed in on early examples of computer art with a few recent works to expand our understanding of this term. We also talked about how the term computer art may have little or confusing significance today since most artists use technology or computers in some way in their practices. This slide shows Gaussian quadratic from 1963, which was created by A. Michael Knoll while he was working on telephone transmission at Bell Laboratories. For Knoll, this abstract computer-generated image had a relationship with Cubism, particularly Picasso's painting Majoli from 1911-1912. As I mentioned, today we will be focusing on interactive art and the web. And if there's one thing that you've gleaned so far from this course, it's that technology sometimes changes extremely rapidly. This means that art influenced by emerging technology or made using emergent technologies changes very fast too. Let's first address what interactivity is or what we mean by this term. We've seen many examples of this, but as a review, interactivity means that the work requires a viewer's participation to complete it. With roots in the 20th century, this type of work has emerged as a new art form, but one danger of this is that art of this nature has the possibility of devolving into a mindless activity or a pastime. This is actually something that Marcel Duchamp has talked about. Many interactive works are designed around exhibitions with support of the audience and more provided by the museum or the venue. It might be hard to garner the participation that an artist desires without an appropriate platform for attracting an audience. And there's one exception to this idea, and that's interactive artworks or art projects that were deployed specifically online, especially during the early days of the internet. Designed by the computer scientist Timothy Berners-Lee, the WWW, World Wide Web, was launched in 1989. Berners-Lee intended for it to help communications between physicists working for the European Laboratory for Particle Physics. We know that the web has evolved into so much more in a relatively short period of time. In this presentation, we're going to look at art exhibitions that were online, 3 of which are listed on this page for your convenience. And we're going to begin with the Immaterials. The Immaterials was a show at the Pompidou in Paris in 1985, and it included works by many French artists and intellectuals, including Daniel Buren, Jacques Derrida, and Jean-François Lyotard, among others. They were connected by computers, and this is before email existed, and they collaborated on a writing project, which was viewable in real time at the museum or on another computer. The show was organized by Lyotard, the French theorist, and he endeavored to present a picture of the world as an unstable and chaotic place. This exhibition was a massive undertaking. It took 2 years to plan and was the most expensive exhibition that the Pompidou had mounted to date. Now, to our contemporary eyes, this exhibition may not withstand the test of time. And this is because we know that when artists use technology in its most emergent forms, it changes and improves quickly, and as a result, the work can feel as outdated as the defunct technology. In 1993, the Guggenheim Museum in New York City mounted an exhibition called Brandon. The subject was a real-life story, and a tragic one. Brandon Teena, born Teena Renee Brandon, was a young transgender man who was raped and murdered in Nebraska when it was discovered that he had been born anatomically female. Xu Li Chang's 1998 work, Brandon, is a multifaceted web project that uses the nonlinear and participatory nature of the internet as a means to explore and illuminate Brandon Tina's tragic story. The link on this page will allow you to explore this project. Now, this project was restored in 2016 and 2017 because the original programming language was no longer viable. Please make sure that you have enabled pop-up windows on your browser before you experience this online work. Ars Electronica is a yearly festival of digital technology and art, and the very first festival occurred on September 18th, 1979. 20 artists and scientists from all around the globe gathered at the new, quote, Festival for Art, Technology, and Society in Linz, Austria. The theme for that gathering was the digital revolution and its possible consequences. Now, we know that the digital world has radically changed since this first meeting, but the yearly festival has continued, gathering these days over 1,000 artists and scientists for 5 days to consider technology and its ability to improve our lives. There are also concerts, groundbreaking prototypes, and visionary conversations. Now let's take a look at some work by the American artist John F. Simon Jr. Simon uses programming language in his works to extend the interactive possibilities of the written word and traditional art forms. His internet project, titled Every Icon from 1997, was included in the Whitney Biennial. The project is a 32 by 32 square grid containing 1,024 smaller squares within it. These tiny squares change constantly from light to dark in an endless number of combinations, one line at a time. On the screen, the work looks like a Joseph Albers that is animated. Make sure you click the link on this page to experience this work. Another project by Simon is called Unfolding Object from 2002. This is an interactive computer work that at first glance looks like a box in a field of color. But the object changes shape and color as users click within the field of color. New flaps open and spread out according to users' manipulations, and the colors evolve as well. Click the link on this page to explore this project too. Now, not only is Simon an accomplished artist himself, but he has also helped many other artists work on their interactive web-based projects too. Jenny Holzer's project, Please Change Beliefs from 1998, uses text and the internet. Click on the hyperlink to explore how the phrase on the screen will change as you click. Simon also worked with the Russian-born team Komar and Melamed on the Most Wanted paintings from 1997. Komar and Melamed asked people to fill out an online survey from people across the nations that asked what they'd like to see in a painting. So when you click on the link for this project, you will see the findings of this survey. For example, this was the type of painting that was preferred among Americans, whereas this painting would have been popular among Chinese participants. Now let's take a look at the web-based project titled Fantastic Prayers. The Dia Center in New York sponsored this commissioned work in 1995, and it is centered on the idea of Arcadia, whose residents are unaware of locations and times. This collaborative multimedia project was conceived by the artists Constance de Jong, Tony Orsler, and Steve Vitiello. There was a CD-ROM published and produced by Dia Center for the Arts and Prop Foundation, and it included appearances by artists like Vito Acconci, David Bowie, Kim Gordon, Mike Kelly, Tracy Leopold, Julia Scher, and others. Some of these names might be familiar to you. There are 8 unique environments for a user to explore, as if entering a video game or a portal into different worlds. Cheryl Donegan is another familiar name from a previous lecture, and she's also native to Connecticut. We looked at her video Head in a past lecture, which was a critique of the pornography industry. Her project Studio Visit was also sponsored by Dia Center in New York, and this work was a virtual studio of ideas, web paintings, videos, and graphic displays. The tone of the work is playful, like some of her single channel videos. This slide has links for 2 additional projects. Potato Land is the website for the artist Mark Napier, born in 1961. This site contains programs such as the Shredder and the Digital Landfill. The Cooker is an ongoing project that began in 1994 with an enormous array of playful associations across 9 different web art projects by the British artist Jake Tilson. And then there's One Year Performance from 2004. 2 Americans calling themselves MTAA filmed themselves in 2 matching rooms, which were actually stage sets. Each had simple wooden beds and desks. The 2 artists went about their daily routines in front of the camera, and viewers could then watch them. However, they weren't actually there for 1 year, but the footage was later edited to be that length. What has the impact of web art been on the greater world and smaller art world? Well, for starters, it secured the importance of graphic design and coding. These sites need to be well designed by a professional, ideally, and they also need to work. Because the sites are not entirely visual, reading and writing are important too. This emphasis on the text connects these works to conceptual art from the 1970s. Conceptual artists often relied on text to help explain their work. And lastly, live performances also emerge via the internet, which for the most part is viewed as an open and free space. Though there's something to be said about who has access to the internet and who does not, the internet is a fundamentally open environment. This is good for the openness of net art, but it also means that net art is not really marketable or sellable. Net art has devised its own system of marketability and circulation. For example, some artists such as John F. Simon Jr. and W. Bradford Paley sell their works on their own websites. Meanwhile, others may still rely on museums, galleries, and other spaces to help position net art in the art world. That is it for today's lecture. Thank you as always for joining me. And the next time we're together, we're going to be looking at how interactive art has impacted installations.